Hello, Director Weldon of the Rhode Island Department of Leader in Training. My name is Joel Richards. I'm a youth leader here at Foster Forward. I'm just really happy to be here with you.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate
It's
it.
very nice. I did read online recently at the Providence Business event. You talked about your first experience of working. It was at 14. You want to say a little bit about that?
Sure. Actually, my first experience was a family business before I was 14.
Okay.
I was 11 years old, and my father would take me to work on the weekends with him. And I would had a uniform, and I would run a cash register. And he would be in the back of the gas station doing his business, and I would handle all the customer interactions at 11 years old,
Wow.
all day long on Saturday, sometimes on Sunday. At 14, I got a job at the mall because my mother insisted that I get work papers as soon as I was eligible, mostly because I'm someone who's better when I'm busy,
Right.
and it was good for me. And from that point forward, I've always maintained employment, usually up until just a handful of years ago, more than one job at a time.
Wow. So I have a few questions just for you.
Sure.
Most of them are based on, what we do at Foster Forward. A core value of Foster Forward is sharing power with those most impacted by programs. Are there any ways that youth are sharing in decisions-making processes at the DLT?
So it's a great question. And while we serve youth in a number of ways, mostly through our WIOA programming,
Right.
through the youth centers, and then through more intensive programming, I would say that the youth probably don't have a strong enough voice yet.
Right.
However, I'm surrounded by incredibly talented people
One sitting right here.
and two of them came from working with City Year for a decade or so, and remind me all the time that we have a very wide constituency to serve, lots of different people. One of the things I'm proudest of as the director of DLT is when I became director after working there for 10 years, I said there are some things we could do differently. I recruited a friend of mine who I had previously worked with who became the head of our Office of Community Engagement. He's a little older than me, so I'll call him a 50-year-old gentleman, African American, grew up in Providence in a situation that I didn't grow up in. I recognize that I've had a lot of privilege in my life and that not everyone comes from the same position. I asked him to help me create this office so we could really connect with our communities, really let them know that government is there to serve them
Right.
and that we need to do a better job of making our programs accessible and available and responsive to their needs. We have a community roundtable. We pay community organizations to offer their advice. We have 25, I think soon to be 26 groups. They met today, and they give us very direct feedback. I'm not sure we have any groups that are specifically dedicated to serving youth, but I know some of those groups do serve youth.
Right.
However, I will go back to my group today and talk to them about how can we do more to make sure that there's a youth voice, a strong youth voice in our discussions.
Glad to hear. Glad to hear. Can you tell us a little bit about DLT's current strategies when it comes to serving youth, especially those who are more burdened by societal disadvantages, i.e., homeless, in-state care, things of that nature?
Sure.
I know that some of it's you answered a little bit before,
So,
but
well, and one of the other people, Julissa Disu, runs our youth programming, and Julissa also worked at City Year with Nora and with Dreen. And so she's very focused and connected to the work.
right,
We, to do this work well, we have to be really intentional and focused. Before I came to DLT, I spent 6 years running a statewide reentry program for adult offenders in the felony court.
Right.
And that's where our director of community engagement worked as the case manager. We got to know all the people that we served. It was hundreds of people over our time together, and help them, get through a very difficult time in their lives. And it taught me so much about what I don't know, and that people every single day have so many barriers. And the way to make them see that they have the opportunity for success is to help them remove those barriers. Sometimes that's one at a time because the way government works.
Right.
Other times you can take a wider approach and do a few at a time. Another thing that we're proud of during the pandemic with the Office of Post-Secondary Education, we created something called Reconnect.ri, which provides wraparound services to people that are engaged in workforce training or higher ed. So sometimes people think that means that we give them bus passes, right? Like we'll give you a bus pass, we'll make your life easier. I used to ride the bus to work. I know that's not easy. That's not what we do. We say, you have a car, but you can't afford to get it fixed. We'll pay to have it fixed.
wow,
A gentleman came to us last year and said, I really want to get a job, but I have a big facial tattoo, and it's been really hard. We paid for him to have that tattoo removed. There are different things that we can do to help. And I think that sometimes we have to just think differently. Right. Apple used to say that, right? Think different.
think different, right? Get a little creative, especially with barrier busting. That's brilliant. I just want to talk a little bit about my experience and a lot of young youth coming into Works Wonders. A lot of times our youth coming in don't really have documents, social security. Some of them don't even have housing, what I'm saying, they're coming straight out of care, things like that. We don't stop you when you don't have like your social or something like that. So we let you in, or even some of our homeless are, actively like just got out of state care. And really that is probably like one of the most important, parts of foster forward. They're not saying no, they're working with you every single step of the way to really make sure, hey, you're gonna get your social for this part of the program, we're gonna get your ID for this part of the program, we're gonna do XYZ, and then we're gonna make sure we can get in, and after that you can get your vocational training, you can get your job opportunity, you can get your internship. So that's really what I feel is brilliant about Works Wonders, and I feel like, you could implement in other ways if possible.
Yeah, that work is really hard. And so working in government for a long time, the federal funding that funds a lot of these programs is very
stringent.
prescriptive, right? You have to fit into certain buckets. And what we used to do is say, we'll serve people if they are eligible.
Right.
Now, Foster Forward takes a different approach.
Right.
They say, we're going to serve the person. We'll figure out if they're eligible.
Right.
And if they can't use one source of money, maybe we can use another one.
Of course.
That's the approach that we're trying to take across the agency at DLT. We're a public service agency. I'm establishing a public service academy for my team at DLT, so everyone knows that we have an ethos of public service. This is what we want to do. Every single person that walks through the door, picks up the phone, or goes on the internet should feel like they were served well. And we start right from the beginning. How can we help you? And then work our way up through all the different programs and services we have.
Glad to hear that. So recently I've done a community health training course. This was through House of Hope. And after that, I'm going to be able to get my hours and I get certified for it. And, community health work and being in social work like that, it's a little bit, stagnant with wage growth. So that's going to lead me into my next question. For what's up in DLT's vision for the future of careers and quality of life for young people growing up or coming into young adulthood in Rhode Island, especially when it comes to, like stagnant, like someone like me, for example, I'm doing going into this field, this is a little bit stagnant. What does it look like for a young person like me getting more vocational training through your agency?
So it really depends on what you want to do. And what we want people to do is feel enriched and like they enjoy their experience. You get into a community health worker role, so now you have some, social work and healthcare experience. That's transferable.
Right.
And so I'm working really closely with a colleague of mine, Shannon Gilkey, who runs our higher ed department. And under the governor's direction, we're working to make sure that Rhode Islanders can make more money.
Right.
It's very simple. The governor wants people to earn more money, put more money in their pockets. How do we do that? Through job training and other things that we do, we make sure that we don't place people into jobs that are just stagnant, that instead they have immediate career growth in front of them. It doesn't mean tomorrow, if you get the job today, tomorrow you're going to have advancement.
Of course. But
it means that if I do this and I do my training, that the next thing in the windshield for me is attainable. It's a goal that I can hit in, let's say, 6 months or a year. We talk about things like registered apprenticeship. It's one of the greatest models of a career pathway because you know from the first day exactly when you're going to get your increase and what your future looks like. And then when the next one comes and the next one until you're a full-fledged, what they call journey person worker. But that's everywhere across the industry spectrum right now. We're really working to make sure people see growth because being stagnant is really tough.
Right.
It's tough to live at the same wage for a long time, and it's tough not to see that there's a possible growth in your future.
Glad to hear that. It's very exciting. Really quickly, do you want to explain what WIOA is for people listening?
Work Innovation and Opportunities Act. This is federal funding.
Right.
WIOA is federal money for workforce.
Right.
And it's available. It goes to every single state based on a formula.
Right.
And unfortunately, Rhode Island's is being getting cut. Like
a little bit small state, so
and everywhere throughout the country, it's kind of going down, and ours has been going down a bit. But that money is made available to help people attend job trainings, to become job or career ready, to go to one of our one-stop career centers or the micro centers that we're working on, to make sure they can sit with someone and talk about how they could change their future.
Right.
We have so much money that comes into the state. Some of that money goes to Providence and Cranston because they have their own dedicated area. The rest of the state, 37 cities and towns, split up another chunk of money. Right. And a board in my office governs how that money is spent.
Perfect. Would you say that you feel the state needs more youth WIOA programs?
I think more services for youth, absolutely. I think more programs if there are providers that can do meaningful work, absolutely. The challenge is resources.
Right.
The federal government keeps cutting the budget. And so right now we have 5 and we're doing this program here at Foster Ford incredibly well. I'd hate to open the door to too many more programs because then that makes less resources available for everyone else. Most important to me, are
Bolstering
they geographically diverse? Do we have programs in Newport? Do we have programs in Woonsocket and everywhere in between?
Right.
So they're accessible. And are we serving every population in Rhode Island?
Right.
And I think Foster Ford is a great example of how you can do that very well.
I agree. Do you believe the department could be doing a better job at marketing or outreach to youth in the state when it comes to programs available to them?
Absolutely. Of course. First of all, you can always do everything better.
Of course.
But yes, we don't do enough of youth-focused work. Julisse is outstanding. My team that has done this work in the past, very good.
Right.
But if we know about it and we work with the centers that know, that's one thing. But
Right.
really getting into the community, and that's why I think a youth voice on the community roundtable that we have is imperative. So we're going to work on that.
Right. On that, thank you for saying that. Leading me into my next question. Perfect. Do you feel the Youth Career Pathways Advisory, that's under the governor's board, but that's still DOT, do you think the current composite of it without having youth voice is the best? Do you think it would be good to add one on there?
No, so I can look. I'm not sure who is on that advisory committee. We had a report out on their work this morning. We had a governor's workforce board meeting. But of course, we're always open we have the ability to add seats pretty much whenever we want.
Of course you do, Director.
Well, I don't have all that much authority, but where I do have it, I'll use it. And I think you're absolutely right. We should be listening to the people that we're trying to serve.
Of course. Great to hear that. The next question is specifically about DCAF and a little bit about the involvement with youth. So are there any current internal connections with DCAF to directly connect youth exiting care with the Department of Labor to provide additional vocational connections to these at-risk youth?
So we've been working with the Voluntary Extension and Care Program for a number of years now. I think, and we've had some success, but we'd like to see more.
Right.
And I know that through the...
Bolstering it a bit.
Yeah, and the Family Court has really wanted us to do more. And DCYF, I work well with the director, Ashley Deckert. She's done a great job. She's a great addition to Rhode Island. And that's a really hard agency. And really, we need to make sure that we're focusing the resources that we have to help them do their work. And so this is one space where we can probably do more.
Right.
I'm not sure if there's more money right now,
right,
but at least be responsive to the community that we're trying to serve in a meaningful way. Getting people an opportunity to have a job is great, but we just talked in the other room about all the other barriers that make it challenging to have that job. We need a comprehensive approach.
Definitely. I definitely agree with you 100%. And I just want to say thank you so much, Director Weldon, for coming along and meeting with me and coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Best part of my day, seriously.
Best part about your day. I'm glad to hear that. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.